So are we on?
We are on.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, this is awesome. We're covering today burning out, not burning out. And I think I have a lot to share and a lot to say about it. So we've decided not to take questions today. We'll read them and we'll get back to everyone with a Q&A, a written Q&A about some of your questions. And so that's going to be what we're going to be doing today. I have a lot to cover, and I want to take the full time to share with you some of the insights that I have with regards to, again, not burning out. And before I jump into it, I just want to take the time to say that, this is a very kind of personal topic. When we're talking about burnouts and when we're talking about feeling distressed or too much stress or whatever, and just having a hard time coping with finishing our seasons, and we're all different, and we all have different backgrounds, we all have different metabolisms, and we have different diets, and we have different stress levels and all of that. And but I think we can all agree that farming is hard work, and then getting up every morning, doing the harvests, and then doing the procedures for all the things that we do, and having crop failures, and having this asshole of a customer that tells us, bitchy things at the weekend. Or there's all sorts of things that happen to us in a week, and temperatures are always changing. At least here in Quebec, it goes from cold to hot to sunny to wet. We're always kind of adapting. It gets to be a lot, and I know that it's overwhelming for a lot of, especially young people starting, or people that have been kind of overachieving and just putting too much energy into it for too long, and then they simply burn out. You see a lot of the older growers get to that point where they've just give for a couple of years, and then at year 5 or 6 they're just completely exhausted, and they can't give it anymore. And so I just want to say that I think that that's kind of normal. So that's the first thing. We need to kind of accept that the work that we do is hard, and it's hard emotionally, and it's hard physically. And because we're doing it day in, day out for many, many months, it's really normal that mid-season or, towards the tail end of the seasons, we get really tired. And the first thing I want to say about that is that thank God that we have winters, especially here in Quebec. I'm not sure that I could grow year-round and have the level of commitment and sustain the energy level that I'm putting into my work every day, 12 months out of the year. And I've thought a lot about that because, we have a climate here where I grow, which is in Quebec, where we're in production, and really dealing and doing the hard work for about 8 to 9 months. So we really have 3 months where it's really cold here, and all of the cells in your body are telling you it's time to do something else and be inside or rest or whatever. But I've been working with farms that are going year round in California and in France. And I would say that the number one advice that I would give to anyone that's in that climate is that you need to have at least a month or 2 off the farm or to do something else. Like, I strongly discourage anyone to imagine farming 12 months out of the year. Like, you need to have time to reset your mind. You need to have time to work on your business and not in your business all the time, to make action plans, to do winter planning and all of that. So I'm starting with that just to say that there's a broad spectrum of climates and circumstances between ourselves. But if you're doing hard physical work, and if you're market gardening seriously, going to market 2-3 times a week, and you're pumping out the produce that needs to happen for you to make a living, you're committing a lot of your time to this project. There needs to be a balance somewhere. And that's why, seasons are so well made. In nature, that's what happens. There's time for bloom, and there's time for fruiting, and then there's time for rest. And I would encourage everyone to consider that natural way of doing things to be the way you lifestyle design your farming career. So if you're growing year-round, or if you're in a climate like California where you could be year-round, you still need to take at least a month. And I would encourage taking about 6 to 8 weeks, in my book, is the minimum time you need to really recharge, focus on something else, and also take the time to plan for your next season. Okay, so that's my number one advice to anyone that want to be farming full-time, is to take the winters off, or the summers, depending on how it works in different hemispheres, but to recharge and plan. Okay? I hope that makes sense for everyone. And I think I'm going to go kind of broad, general advice, because when we're talking about not burning out, the easy answer would be, yeah, you need to do yoga every morning and meditate, and you need to surround yourself with beautiful people that are always positive, and you need to have a healthy diet, and don't drink alcohol and don't smoke cigarettes. And I think that's kind of not where I want to go here. I'd rather give you some, taking care of yourself is part of my lecture, but when it's too idealistic, I know how farmers are. We grind, we struggle, we don't live in perfect environments, and most of us don't do yoga. Probably most of us don't meditate, and perhaps we should, and perhaps we shouldn't smoke, and whatever. But beside all of this, there's some general guidelines that if you apply them in your daily life, I guarantee this will make a big, big impact on your overall stamina, your emotional stability, and your capacity to take a season from start and finish it without feeling completely disgusted or completely reacting to perhaps the idea of just starting a new one. Okay? So that's the goal for today. I hope you guys are on board. I'm going to start off by presenting you with 4 management strategies. Okay? So these are 4 tricks, tips, or management strategies that if you put them in your daily routines, you will see a major shift in either productivity or less emotional strain. Okay? So the number one is that you should set the fixed hours of when you're working on the farm. What I mean by that is that you should be doing a 8 to 5 or 6 to 7 or whatever timeline you want to have on your farm. You should have a set amount of working hours that you're putting in your week. And every day, your working hours should start at X hour and finish at X hour. And that's really, really important. And I've come to that conclusion without doing that before. Like on our farm, we work from 7:30 to 5. And in the big seasons, when it's really hot, we start earlier and we finish a bit earlier. And ever since we've started doing that, we've come to the realization that we get more done in less working hours. Because what you do is then when you set fixed time of when you'll be working on the farm, what it does is that it creates deadlines where you know that your day finishes at 5:30. So you need to make sure that you're prioritizing your things to make sure that everything that you wanted to do during that day will get done before 5:30. So it kind of forces you to prioritize or to speed up certain things or to drop other things that are not perhaps that important in your goals and objectives. And then the deadline, we all know about deadlines. When we're at school and you have a major essay and it's due by that date, you start working on it like 3 days prior. Because the deadline is what forces you to come up with efficiency and stamina and make it happen. And so that's why if you set a deadline on your working hour in a day, you'll have that same effect. And that's really important. What it also does is it allows you to free up time for other things in your farming day. So farming is a big part of your day, but 5:30, okay, I'm done, and then I need to make time to make dinner for the kids, go for a bike ride for the kids. I have a tennis game with my friends. I'm going to a yoga class. I'm going to the bar, whatever. Whatever you're doing, you need to commit to other stuff than farming, and to having a timetable, a calendar, and a daily set of working hours will allow you to do that. So you're creating space for farming, and you're creating space for something else. So some of you listening to this might think, okay, JM, this is really obvious. The whole business world works that way. So you're not inventing anything new, and I'm not. But I know from a fact that most of us farming don't adhere to that principle. That's really common in the business world. We'll work from whenever we want to whenever we want. And we think of ourselves as being free because of that. But from experience, I can tell you, if you don't set limits to your working hours, you will become really overworked, and most importantly, you're not prioritizing your time really well, because you have all of this time in your mind to do all these things. And so, set fixed working hours, start now. They can change over time. It could be different timetables for morning or evening, but commit to them. And when it's 5:30 or 6 o'clock, whenever, you need to stop. And I'm encouraging you to try it. And I guarantee that if you do that, after a few weeks, you will figure out that you're doing more work in less time. And that works. So that's my number one advice, not to burn out, is to start by setting fixed amount of working hours in your daily routines. Okay? Number two. And number two, I think, is the most important one of all. Okay? And it's a really simple one. You need to have one day off per week. Like every week, all the time, forever and ever and ever. You need to have one day off per week. The foolishness of trying to go all the time, boom, boom, there's too much work, it's early spring, there needs to be this happening, this happening, this happening, I can't stop, I need to make it happen. This is the secret to not finishing your season in force, because you're not rested enough. And you never have a time to refresh, and you just kind of rest your body, rest your mind, and think about something else. And all the people that I know, especially the other people that are starting their farms where everything needs to happen and there's a big overload, and I acknowledge that, and the overload is there. What I'm trying to say is that if you want to tackle that overload, the best way is to take one day to rest. So that, let's say we're doing Sunday's a great time to rest, because that's when most other human beings are free to interact with, which is really important also. You'll find that Mondays you feel better, and then you can start your week fresh and just tackle on more work because you took some time off. So, take it from me. Take it from my experience and from the experience of a lot of seasoned growers that I know. You want to have at least one day off per week. And again, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, yeah, JM, I understand, but you don't understand my context, you don't know where I am at, blah, 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 and you're not believing me, you should. You should take my advice and you should follow it, and you'll see it'll make an impact, and you will get to your objective faster, better because of that. Okay? And remembering, if you're listening to this, it might be that you're either burning out or you're thinking that you might. So I think that you're looking for answers, and even if it's not pleasing to hear, you should be open to what I'm proposing. And because I know for a fact that it'll make a difference in your life. If you're already taking a day off per week, good. Enjoy it and just be happy that you're already there, because that's really important. Okay, number 3. You should finish every day's work with an action list of everything that needs to be done the next day. So that is something that you put in your routine. So I finish at 5:30. Around 5, I will go back to my office space and I will sit down and I will take the time to think about, okay, tomorrow what needs to happen? And I will write down an action list of all those things that need to happen. Boom, 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 boom. And that's called preparing for the next day. And why this is so powerful, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, it allows you to kind of like come back, farming, like if you're in the market garden all day, you're dealing with a lot of this thing, blah, blah, blah. You need to have one moment where you're just kind of like shutting down a little bit and reflecting, making a game plan, thinking, using your brain. And that's really important. It's going to calm yourself to do it. And then you're preparing for tomorrow, so you're thinking, okay, I need to have gasoline in my BCS. Do I have it? And then you might go check in your garage, and you realize that you don't have gasoline. So tomorrow, instead of just kind of rushing with going into the fields, you know that you need to prepare for that. So you'll be more efficient tomorrow because of that. You might, you might be thinking that, you're harvesting and you don't have rubber bands. So all of these things, so that when tomorrow you have a crew and you're doing it, you are prepared for some of the for your workstations. Everything should be set up, lined up. So you need to take time personally to think about all of those. So by doing that action list every day before you finish your day, you're preparing the next day better, and you're leaving yourself time for problems or hiccups or anything that might need you to prepare for tomorrow. You still have some time to do it. But most importantly, by finishing every day with an action list, when that list is done, your day is done and your mind is free. You know that monkey mind that's always kind of like, you're having dinner and you're thinking, oh fuck, I need to turn off irrigation. Oh, I need to, the greenhouse controller, I forgot this, that. And then you're having dinner with your kids and your family and you're not present because you're thinking about all of these things. And that's really not good for your personal relationship or just for your personal health and your mental health. So when you take that list and you finish it, it's kind of like magic. When that list is done, your work is done, and it creates a release. And now you feel confident that you're prepared for tomorrow, so you're not spending your evening thinking about all these details. Okay? So, strong piece of advice, and again, I'm urging you to follow that simple procedure. For me, it has created all the difference in the world, which is you should be finishing every day's work by taking the time to sit down, calm yourself, and thoroughly think about tomorrow's action list. Make sure that you're prepared. And then from there, you're good to go and you're good to have a super nice evening, even if it's crazy. Okay? So that's how you get the craziness out of yourself, is by doing that. Cool? All right. So, number 4, and there's a lot of management strategies out there, and I could enumerate all sorts of them, but I've boiled it down to 4 that I think are really effective and that are not expensive. You don't need to take a class, a landmark class or something like that. These are simple things that you can just apply right now to your farming lifestyle and see the impact right away. So that's why I chose them. The last one of the management strategy that I think is really important is delegate. You need to delegate certain things on your farm. And you need to learn how to delegate to make sure that it's going to work. So when we're delegating, what we're doing is we're setting up roles, responsibilities, and guidelines for others to follow, so that these people can take some of the workload off of your shoulder. And that's a big part of not burning out, because The number one reason is that there's too much work, too much stress, and we don't have the capacity to deal with all of this complexity, all of this workload. So, the number one way to deal with that is to push off some of it to somebody else that will take some of that workload with them, on them, and then you're sharing some of the workload. And delegating is not so easy, and it could be poorly done or it could be well done. And I don't think I need to explain more about it besides the fact that it's really important. But the way to delegate is to take the time to really be clear on what the expectation is, what the role is, what the responsibility, what the outcome should be, and what the expectation is that you have in that responsibilities. Creating somewhat of a guideline of how you want things to be done. And then it's about empowering somebody else to do it. And the word empowering is really important because it's not just kind of dumping this on somebody else and kind of what usually happens is that you're very discouraged because that person is not as good as you are, or the outcome of the work is not what you expected, or that person is not competent enough, or whatever reasons. But you need to understand is if this is going to work, it's how you set it up. So you're the one setting that role and responsibility, and you should be taking the time to make sure that everything is clear. What the expectation is, how it should be done, and how you want that person to operate, and then it's off to him. And you need to leave that person some time to make mistake and to learn and to become competent also. And what usually happens is that we all know that we're, as the main grower, we're always the better one to do the job. We're always better served by ourselves. If I were doing it, it'd be faster, more efficient. And then the reflex of somebody that's a high achiever, and usually these are the people that burn out, is that I'll just do it myself. It's going to be faster, and it's just gonna, fuck off. I'm just going to do it. But that's when you're going wrong, because if you don't learn how to delegate, and if your delegations and your roles and responsibilities don't become successful with others, that means you're having a problem delegating the right way. And so you need to be working on your aspect of learning how to do that instead of just kind of like omitting it and just going full throttle. I'm just gonna do it. Because if that's always how you deal with that problem, you'll just take on more and take on more and take on more, and then your own personal power to solve everything is what ends up depleting yourself of it. And that's how you burn out. So if you're seeing yourself in this picture of you don't want to tell others how to do things because you're better off doing it yourself, then that might be one of the reasons why you're on your way to either burning out or feeling exhausted. You need to learn how to delegate. It's really important, and when it's well done, it's really empowering, because then you're sharing some of the stress load, you're sharing the success, but also the failures, and then you become a better manager. Okay? So, once you do delegate, you need to stick to it, and you need to make sure that you're not taking the role back as soon as it's not going well. You need to give it time. Other people need to learn how to work with you. You need to learn how to work with them. But make it a priority in your farming crew to give roles and responsibilities and to make sure that others are sharing the workload with you with clear outcomes, clear expectations, and certain mechanisms to come back and do, quick check-in meetings to make sure that everybody is on the same ship. So I'll just take a minute here to drink, take a little reset, and we'll be back in 2 minutes, okay? It's hard for me to talk. Okay, so next, I want to share with you Other strategies that are kind of on a different front that I know also work a lot and that have made a big impact in my personal life. And again, what I'm trying to transmit here are simple solutions that if you just add them into your daily routine, they will make a big difference in the overall outcome. Okay? So these are more about personal development, which is really important because, you know, the farm and the farming is closely related to the farmer, and the farmer, you know, this is you. And the amount of investment that you put on your farm is really important, but you should also be investing in you, in your own development and your own skill sets and your own personal power. Okay? So my number one advice to any grower that's really going out there and grinding it and taking on the full spectrum of growing professionally for people that are counting on him for their daily food supply is to forget about balance. You know, when we hear about you should have a balanced lifestyle, you should be working physically, and you should be working also emotionally, and you should be doing yoga and all. I often come back to yoga, not because I don't like yoga, but I just often hear that that's the simple solution to all the problems. Perhaps it is, but it's... Anyway, forget about balance because it's really hard to achieve. Having a very balanced lifestyle and being a grower, professional grower, is not so easy. So if that's the expected goal, it might take some time to get there. And what I'm recommending instead is just find harmony. Okay? Forget about balance and look for harmony. And harmony could be in working a lot and not balancing things out. You can have harmony in just really going all out, harvesting, or all out at farmer's market or whatever, but you know when there's harmony, you know that it's there, and when it's not there, you also know that it's not there. It's something that's really easily measurable. Balance, not so easy, but aim for harmony and appreciate the harmony that's there on your farm. And because what we're doing is really beautiful, and there's all these moments where people thank you at farmer's market, when you cross off a lot of things on your list, when you're outside and you're hearing the birds sings, when your BCS is roaming and you're just so happy. All of this harmony, just cultivate it and appreciate it, and that simple mindset will help, because then instead of kind of working towards something that is hard to attain, which is balance, and again, it took me many, many years to find balance in my farming career between my personal life, my professional life, between my emotional stability and it's just like dealing with a lot of employees. And I think this comes with time, and if you're a young grower and that's your expected goal for now, it might take a while to get there, but harmony could be there right here, right now. So work on that. Focus on it and just appreciate that it's there on your farm and in your life. And I think that's something to think about, okay? So, again, it's less technical here, but this is a mindset. Farming is about a mindset. So that's my number one. My number two, and again, this is really kind of broad and open-ended here, but you need to say no more often. That's something that I've learned, and I've learned by other people telling me this. Like, one of my mentor is Joel Salatin. He's a famous American farmer, very famous. Probably all of you guys know Joel. But I've spent a lot of time with Joel because I was going through growing pains with the success of my work and my book. And Joel gave me this simple advice. He said, JM, you will be defined, and your success and your happiness in life, and that's what he said to me, is defined by how many times you say no in a day. I was like, what? And I didn't understand what he meant. But if you think about it, there's a lot of interactions that we have in a day. A lot of people have their agenda, they have their commitment, and they're trying to bring you on board on their ships. and they're trying to have you solve their problem, or they're trying to have you be helpful to them. But in the end, you need to set your own limits, and you need to make sure that you're not always pleasing others, that you're pleasing yourself first. You're paying yourself first. And saying no to, sorry, I can't do that. Oh, sorry, I'm not available. Sorry, this is not for me at this point in time, is a big part of creating those limits that are really important, those boundaries for you to have enough space for you to be happy, for you to thrive in what your own personal objectives are. So saying no is really important. And for me, saying no comes down to paying yourself first, which comes down to, when we're in airplanes, they teach us that when there's a pressure failure, there's the gas masks that fall, you need to put the gas on your mouth first before putting it on your kid. And that's a very good way of looking at things in life. You need to make sure that you are healthy and you have the oxygen before you can go and help others. So saying no, what I've learned is that it's the best way to put that limit, and you should be very comfortable saying no to people. And there's great ways to say no, but saying no is a fundamental. And that's something that I wish I would have learned much earlier in my farming career. And so hopefully this helps you at this point in time. Okay, I'm moving on. I know I'm going a bit fast here, but I see the time. Going to bed. Going to bed is a big part of successful farming. What I mean, but there's a couple of things. First of all, you should make time in your week to go to bed early, and so that you're rested for the next day. Some growers, for them it's really obvious that they're going to go to bed early because they're tired and fatigued, and it's just they need to go because they're not functional anymore. Other growers, they might go on late at night because they want to be stimulated by other things than farming. So we're all different in that way, but to be well rested, we can't understate how it's important to be effective in the next day. And when you get fatigued or over fatigued because you're not working, you're not sleeping enough, eventually it catches up. And when it catches up, then you get deprived of energy, and then you have less energy, and then you're less effective, and then the hill becomes steeper and steeper, and you just don't have the tools and the resources to get it done anymore because you're tired. And so make sure that you're taking a few nights a week to rest, to go to bed early, even if it's a bummer because you're not doing whatever else you could be doing. But that's a big part of the commitment of being a successful grower that won't burn out, is to take care of your body and your mental fatigue by sleeping more. Also, I would add, and that's a little trick that I've adopted some years ago, and man, it has changed a lot, which is your last kind of thoughts when you go to bed really will impact how you wake up. And so I've trained myself to always close my eyes before I'm really ready to go, and I'm thinking about one thing in my day that was good, like one good thing today. And then I voice it out loud. Today, yeah, I did a class about how not to burn out, and I think it went pretty well, and I was kind of happy with myself about that. And that's kind of my ending thought. And perhaps in that day there was a lot of bullshit that happened, there was a lot of failures, there was a lot of stress, there was a lot of problems, but I've conditioned my mind to just finish with one thing that went good, just to make me feel good about that one thing. And when you close your eyes and go to sleep with that thought, you end up more energized, more hopeful, just like more happy, and you start your day on the right on the right feet. And so that's something, you know, daily prayers are awesome. Appreciation is wonderful. But I've found that what works the best for me, and I've checked that out with a few others of the people that I work with, that I've been training and helping them along the way, is that to really focus and voice out. You can write it also. That's another good good way to do this, is to just make it clear to your mind that there was something really good today. And then that creates a good vibe, and then you'll finish your day with that, and then you'll start your day really well. So that's a piece of advice that I'm strongly encouraging you to take, because it makes a big difference. Okay? My last point number 4, with regards to personal development, is to take care of yourself. Okay? We're not machines. And even though we work really hard and we're grinding and we're tough, you know, we're not machines. And we're sensitive human beings, and we're doing this mostly from our hearts, and we're not professional athletes, and we don't need to be. And so, and I'm going to say something kind of funny, because I'm a male and I'm a man, and I know I can relate perhaps more to men in that way, you know, you should put facial cream before you go to bed. And you should always have hand salve before you go to bed. Because then it's an act of saying, I'm taking care of my body, which is my tool. You know, you will definitely put oil in your engine. Make sure that it's never lacking oil, because it wants to lubricate better. But a lot of men I know would not put facial cream or hand salves, but you should, because this is your tool. And you want to make sure that you're taking good care of you. And you should plan to have someone come and massage you or whatever, and it doesn't need to cost you money. You can work in exchange for vegetables. You need to kind of take some time when you're taking care of your body and your own little personal person that is beautiful and that is, you know, fragile. And we need to accept that, even if we're really tough and we're grinding and we're pushing and we're hardcore. We're fragile, and we need to make time for that. On my farm, the first thing that we built was a sauna. And I think almost every week we have a sauna together with the crew, or with my kids, or with my wife and the kids. And it's just a moment where we're doing our body, you know, something amazing with our body, but we're also kind of healing. And it's kind of a healing time. And, you know, perhaps not everyone has a sauna back home, but you can have somebody come for a massage, or you can go to a day spa. But, you know, you should commit, I would say, on a daily or weekly basis to something that is taking care of you, taking care of your body. It's really important. And when we neglect that too long, I think in the end, it's not just the physical aspect of getting a massage, it's just like what you're setting out to the universe. Like, I'm taking care of myself. I'm taking care of my body. And that's really important in farming. So I'm encouraging you to do that. I would also add a few others. I would limit the number of coffees that you have in a day. Up to you, but I've seen it on many people. Perhaps switch to tea in the day. I'm not a fan of power drinks. How do we call them? Those energy drinks. I think if you're running the farm on energy drinks, I think that's a clear sign that you'll need to switch to something else, because that's not sustainable. It's a fact. So you might want to think about something else to get high on. And, you know, energy, you never have, you know, if you're taking energy that you don't have, you're depleting yourself. So you need to work at the farm at a same pace, at the same level, without perhaps that extra boost all the time. So figure something out, but I think energy drinks are not sustainable, and they're perhaps a sign that eventually you might be burned out. And then the most important thing, drink plenty of water. Every day, all the time. You need to have water. You need to be chugging water. Like I have my Nalgene bottles that I carry with me, and that's my measure if I'm drinking enough water, because if it's noon and I've drank half of my gallon of water, I know it's not enough. And so you need to make sure that I carry my water canteen and I'm drinking plenty of water. I got sick not drinking enough water, and I didn't know it. I was dehydrated, and then it became a problem for this and that and this and that. And it took me years to figure out that I wasn't drinking enough water. So drink plenty of water. That's sound advice, okay? I see the time now, so I'm moving now. I'm going to share another one that's really easy to do every day, and it's really fun. And this one is to take a nap. Like taking naps every day, like 15, 20-minute power naps, are the best way I know of to recharge the system and start strong after dinner. So I usually have a light dinner, and I eat mostly vegetables at that dinner. And then I have a 15, 20-minute power nap. And man, it changes the whole thing. My energy level is at 100%. My clarity of mind is at 100%. My joy, I'm really happy because I took a nap and I just feel refreshed. And this is a routine that whenever I've gone off that routine of not taking the naps, I've felt over time that my energy level wasn't as high as it could be. So I don't know your context, your situation, but there's always a way to figure out how to do a nap. And I'm encouraging you to try it. If you don't nap, try it. You see it changes the world. If you're having a hard time napping because you're not falling asleep, I don't really know how to help you, but there's probably tons of books about how to do it, or you can Google how to nap and you'll figure it out. But having a nap on a daily basis is really, really good. Okay? So we're covering a lot of things, and I'm going to end this class by talking about another kind of subarch of how to, not burn out. And really the way to see this is, we're running marathons and we're not sprinting. So you need to have a marathon, attitude. And there needs to be a time and a space when you're working on your strategies on the farm. So there's management strategies, there's personal development, but there's also the systems of your farm and how those operate on a daily basis. The design of your farm will go a very long way in determining if you're efficient or not, if you're losing time. That is major. I don't have time to go in details, but design matters. And then you should have all of the way you want things to be. You should have procedures, operational procedures about how to handle vegetables, how your cucumbers are harvested, what kind of tools you have, how your carrots are bunched. Is it in the fields? Is it inside? How many carrots per bunch? All of these things that make up our daily lives, they should be nailed to best practice and procedures. And I teach a master class on these things, simple steps. Crop planning is a big part of it. You should be able to know ahead of time all of your vegetables, where they're going, by what they're going to be replaced with. It should be calculated in such ways that you don't have too many vegetables, that you're not lacking. You should have a clear picture of what needs to be done when at every given point in time, and that's usually what we do in the winter. So a big part of not burning out is having all these strategies, best practice, crop planning, and just operating procedures for everything. And I teach a master class about this. The information is close to this. You can just click on it and you'll see. I'm inviting you to check it out. This is not a sales pitch, but I can tell you for a fact that if you are becoming more professional, if you're learning how to do things better and better and better, this saves you time. And time is the limiting factor that we have on our farms. And when you manage your things better, when you're better at doing everything that needs to be done, then you will free up some time to just do something else. And in the end, we're farmers and we're growers, but there's more to life than just the farm. And so farm hard, play hard, rest hard, and that's the secret, I think. And stay stimulated. So learning new things in farming is awesome. So that's really all the time that we have, and we're going to answer questions later on. I hope some of the things that I've been sharing with you helps in your daily lives. I want to say that I'm still farming full-time, 60 hours a week on the farm, and I've adopted all of these things through the years, and it's helping me still being interested in farming. And actually, I would say that after 15 years of doing it, I'm loving it even more. I want to have more time for other stuff, but I'm very stimulated, and I like the fact that we're feeding the world, and we're doing it rightfully so. So I'm encouraging you to keep it up, to keep on farming, and I'm wishing you a lot of success in your agrarian adventures. Okay? JM out.